Hi, this is Richard. Today we're going to be doing an introductory video for GIMP so that you can start using this tool as part of your workflow, or maybe you'll like this better than what you're doing now and you can go into GIMP and use this as your free program for photo editing. It's a really great program, and I think even though it might take a little bit longer to do everything that you can do in Photoshop, it can do just about as well. And what it can't do, there are people making plugins for it that I'm not going to get into in this video, but you can adapt how it works and what you can do by downloading plugins. So you just go to gimp.org here, and then you can download it here on Downloads. And then you just hit download GIMP 2.814 and install it. It's pretty simple. You open it up and it looks like this. Now let me show you what we're going to do. To start off with and not use any plugins and just learn some of the basics, we're going to make a Facebook cover photo, and it's going to wind up looking kind of like this. We've got some roses, one of them's colored, the rest of them are gray. We've got some bokeh in the background that's the saturation's been turned down, so it looks real high school Photoshoppy, but that's okay. Just getting your toes wet, being able to start and finish a project in about 10 minutes. So here's GIMP. You open it up and you've got a lot of white space. There's not much going on. You have these tools over here, obviously, and these little tabs up here, and all these menus. So first off, we need to figure out what size our image needs to be. So we're going to go to find out the size of the cover photo. It's 851 pixels by 315 pixels. So that's width by height. So you don't, I'm not going to explain what pixels are here. I assume you already know. We're just going to go here, File, New, and we're going to make it 851 pixels in width, 315 pixels in height. You can drop down advanced options here, and you can even set your pixels per square inch here. That's really handy if you're doing like printing. They'll require 300 pixels per inch, and then you'll want to change this to inches, and you can do like 11.5 by, or 8.5 by 11, 8.5 by 11 this way, and then like 300 pixels per square inch, and it'll calculate your height and width in pixels. And then you can just change it as you need it. But we know pixels, we're going to leave it on pixels. Down here you have color space, make sure it's on color, you don't want grayscale, and the background, it's going to fill our original image with transparency. I just prefer that. There we go. Now we generated a working space. That's the size and shape of our finished picture. And it puts this thing up here. This is a layer. So right now we have one layer and we can turn it on and off. But since it's the only layer, nothing really changes. Now, one of the biggest things that new people do with GIMP is they'll do everything on this one layer, and they won't add new layers and work in layers. Imagine like you're in elementary school and the teacher wheels that big old projector on the little cart with the squeaky wheel into the middle of the classroom and points it at the pull down screen and puts those clear pieces of cellophane down and writes on them. Stacking those up is working with layers. You can draw on one of them and then pull it off and it's gone. And you can draw on one on the bottom, put one on top, draw more on that one, put one on top, draw more on that one, and it'll look like a complete image, but it's made out of layers. Now let me show you what I mean. We're going to add a new layer. We're going to name it, oh, I don't know, flowers. This is just for example. Now we have a new layer, and I'm going to click on this paintbrush over here, and I can start drawing. And then I can turn that off, and you just see my background. And I can draw on my background, and now I'll turn that off, and I have nothing visible. I'll turn both of them on, and you see how they overlay. Now, even though flowers is on top, if I select background here, like this, I can draw on the background, and it's not going to affect the top flowers layer, just the background layer. So it's really handy, and it's a really great way to work, and I'm going to hit delete here, just to delete everything off of those layers. If I want to delete the layer itself, I need to right-click and go to Delete Layer. It's a really, really handy way to work, and as you get into this, I highly recommend working in layers. Most new people to photo manipulation and programs like this don't do that, and it's a big stumbling block. So we need to get the images to put in this. We're not just going to draw them, so we should go to CG Textures. This is just a really good website for free textures. I highly recommend you make an account. You'll need an account to download these, They're free to use. You cannot sell these images. You cannot. You can sell finished works made out of them. So it's very specific licensing, and I suggest that you read the licensing before you try to do anything commercial with them. But for a Facebook cover photo, it's perfectly fine. They're a great website. I highly recommend getting their paid service, which is $75 per year for the highest quality images. But for what we're doing today, we don't really need it. So this is the image I used. Just open it up, and once you have an account logged in, you can just click large here. It'll load a preview, and it'll download. And we're going to need the bokeh. Oh, here's what the main website looks like. I went to nature and then to flower beds to find that flower image. For the bokeh, we're just going to go back home, go to abstract. You can see it there, bokeh night. And I think it was this one. Yeah, it was that one. You can click this and then select the large here and download it. And remember where you downloaded those to, because we're going to be using those immediately. So we're going to go to File, Open as Layers, and we're going to go bokeh, flower beds, and open them. And bam, 1, 2 layers. So that's a really handy way to open these. You can also drag the file into your layers here. Like, let me grab that download, and I'm just going to drag it right there and see it sticks it in between where I let it go. Now first off, we're going to add an alpha channel to these, because every image from CG Textures is a JPEG and they don't have an alpha channel. Alpha channel is transparency, so you want to make sure you add those in there. Otherwise, when you erase, it'll just be white on the background, not clear. And you want to be able to see through these so that you can use the layering effects that we talked about. Now, this is really, really big, so let's go over here to these tools. And this one here is the manipulator, and it's going to translate this image anywhere we move it. It's just the mover tool. It's still really big. Right here below it is the scale tool. So we're just going to grab that and click on the image, and it opens up this grid for us. I'm holding Control and mouse wheel down to zoom out on the image so that I can see this whole area. And it opens up this little box. These are our settings for scaling. When you first open it, you see this little link is broken, and it's going to squish your texture however you move it, and we don't want that. So we're going to hit reset and link it. I like to see %, so I'm going to change that to percentage. Then you can just grab this and scale it down. We want it to be about the size of the image. This little circle in the middle, if you click in the middle of it and drag, you can move your scaled image as well. So we're just going to put it about there and hit scale. Now let's zoom back in and see if this is what we like. I'm going to grab it with my translation tool, and it looks pretty nice, but I like these flowers on this side more, and my face is going to be right here covering these up. So I want to flip it. So I'm going to click this one, which is going to flip it horizontally, and then click my image and it'll flip it for me. If I want to flip it vertically, I just change it over here. These are the tool settings, the tool options down here. So now that I flipped it, I'm going to move it over here to show the flowers. Alright, I like that pretty well. Now there is a problem here. We've got all of this green in the background, and it looks like what, a shopping cart back there, so we need to remove that. We're going to use our magic wand selector tool. We're going to click, and it's going to select an area. Now there's a few things here. When you do this, the threshold's going to be really low, and you're going to click and you're going to get this little blobby area, and you're going to hit delete, and it's going to leave all these little blobs. Control Z is undo, by the way. So you need to take this threshold, and you can just mouse wheel up in here to about 50, and now we got some of it. It's still missing some, so let's mouse wheel up again to about 60, and we're still missing some. 64, 68. Now we're getting most of it. 67. There we go. That looks good. I'm not losing too much, and I'm going to click feather edges here. This is going to slightly blur the edges. Make that maybe 8 pixels. Then we can just hit delete. Oh, I'm still in there. I'm still in this selection box. There we go. Okay. Now we can hit delete. and it deletes it. We want to take that little white spot off, and this stuff over here can go away. Now, because we hit feather edges, you see it's got these little ghosts where it was outlined. We can just take our erase tool here, increase the size a little bit, and remove some of this. Maybe we need to decrease the size. I'm going to zoom in with Control and mouse wheel again. And I'm just going to take some of this off. Now you can spend a lot of time going in there and being real precise. I'm not going to really worry about it too much. Just going to go in here real quick. Okay. That looks about good. And you could get those spots there. I'm not going to worry about it. When we zoom out, it's hardly noticeable. So now we need to make this black and white, and we need to make that one standalone in color. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to duplicate layer. This just makes another layer behind it that's exactly the same. And if you missed any spots erasing, overlaying these is really going to show them to you. So we're going to turn that one off and click on this one. This is the one we're going to use. Go up here to Colors and Hue Saturation. We're going to take the hue, let's see, nope, it's a saturation all the way down, and you can see what it does to it. If you turn it all the way up, this is how you get those magazine pictures where it looks like the colors are hyper realistic. Don't ever turn it all the way up, please. Super saturation is kind of overdone, and everybody's kind of over it by this point. So you could leave a little bit of red to look like it's an old-timey photo that's been colored in. I'm just going to turn it all the way down. Hit OK. Now we have our grayed out flowers, and we put this one over it. You can see the difference. We need to have just this one colored in, so we're going to use a mask. This is another great tool. You're going to right click here and do Add Layer Mask. We're going to do black, full transparency. Now it adds this black layer mask. I'm going to show you what it looks like, just this blackness. And then we take our brush, we're going to color white on here. Whatever we color white is going to show for this image. See? And it looks like I'm coloring on this one down here, but it's because I have a duplicate of the same image right on top of it. Now we make sure that we click this black mask image to show that we're working in it. And we're using white to paint in the color. So I'm going to take those off. There we go. Alright. Now we're just editing it. I'm going to zoom in on this flower, and then I can just paint in the color like this. Oop, and I got a little sloppy there, but I will go back and fix it. Maybe I won't. I'll show you something else. This button here on your brushes, Smooth Stroke, this really helps. You can see like it's a little jaggy where I was coloring. This really helps it to blend in how it needs to, so that you don't accidentally make a jaggy line or a mistake. It kind of smooths everything out of your brush strokes. And sometimes that's a bad thing, like down there. Sometimes it's a good thing. But this is just a project to show you generally how this works. And once you get the outside done, you can turn that off and come back in here so that you can be more exact. The smooth stroke just makes your painting look much more realistic. Then, see, I went over here and now this is colored down here. I'm just going to switch my colors back to black and I can paint black on this mask to undo that. And if I want a different shape, or I want to use a pattern or a different brush, I click here on this circle, and here's all my different brushes. I just generally leave it on this circle. It's got a slight blur to its edge. It's pretty good for manipulating photos. And let me show you what I did there. See, I just colored all this in white. And that's how we mask things. I masked off this area. Now, that's still pretty saturated. It's looking okay. But what I want to do is I'm going to take this opacity up here, and I'm going to turn it down to 60. Now it looks like it was a colorized black and white image. Much nicer. It looks more professional. It pops a little bit better than the super saturated colors it was before. Now I need to do something with this background, and it's way too big as well. So let's scale it down, and Control mouse wheel, remember, zooms you in and out. Or you can use this down here, but I prefer Control mouse wheel. And see, it remembered that we wanted these linked. So we're just going to try to make this about the width of the image. We're going to pull it up a little bit and hit scale. Now that's pretty close to where I want it. I'm going to grab it with the translation tool. We're going to move it down. I'm just using the arrow keys to move it here. There we go. That looks pretty good. Now that's a lot of color in the background. You could leave it like that, but it looks pretty busy with all these different grays of these flowers. So I'm going to go to color, hue saturation again. I'm just going to take that saturation down to maybe minus 75. There we go. That way we leave a little bit of color in the background, but it doesn't detract from all this noisy flowers up front. You could even make this a lot bigger so it'd be more abstract, and that would look pretty good too. Now, we never did use this background layer, so we can right click and delete layer. And we've got all of these. Let's make sure we go back up here to this one with the mask and we apply that layer mask. Now this is all that's left of that image, and you can see how it's transparent now. And then one other thing that I like to do when I've done editing things, I like to make the layer to the image size, and that just cuts off everything. See, right now this whole bokeh image goes up here, and I want to cut all that off. So I'm just going to do layer to image size. Now look, if I grab it, there's nothing up top. So now we're finished with a pretty basic Facebook background, and I hope you learned a lot about GIMP and how to use it and a few of these different tools. Hopefully in some of these next GIMP videos we can go more into how these different tools work and some of the awesome things that you can do with GIMP. But I want you to get in there and start using this magic wand selection tool to erase the backgrounds of things and put them different layers together to make interesting images. With layers and masking and the magic wand tool, I think you can go pretty far with almost anything you're wanting to do. So thanks for watching. Oh, nope, there's one other thing I need to mention. I'll get ahead of myself. I need to export this as an image. So you can just do Facebook background .png, and then hit export. I already have it on there. I'm going to hit replace. It's going to pop this box up, and then you just hit export again. I like PNG because it's a lossless format, so this will look just as good as it does here when you upload it to Facebook. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.